Hi, this is Marlene with Miami Ghost Chronicles, and I want to welcome you to another episode of Stories of the Supernatural. Wherever you find us, whether it's a video on YouTube or on your favorite podcast platform, please like and subscribe to us so that you can get notification of when a new show is released. You can also find us on major social media platforms where I give you a heads up about upcoming shows and which date and time they will be aired. If you go to MiamiGhostChronicles.com, you can find links to the shows, MP3 files which you can download, or links to your favorite platform like iTunes, Spreaker, SoundCloud, and all other major sources. You can find information for upcoming and past talk show appearances as well as new book projects at MarlenePardo.com. You can also purchase books and merchandise there, and you can visit my author page on Amazon at Marlene Pardo Pellicer. Due to popular demand, I'm narrating my True Believer stories that I've collected throughout the years in a new series called Supernatural Storytime. You can find links at supernaturalstorytime.com. If you are into classic horror, ghost, and adventure stories, I narrate some of those at Nightshade Diary, and you can find links at nightshadediary.com. If you would like to read noteworthy news about the paranormal world, true crime, conspiracy stories, and anything that is just plain weird, you can visit the Stranger Than Fiction Stories tab at MiamiGhostChronicles.com. I do want to thank you all for being part of my audience, and I think you are all wonderful. Hi everybody, this is Marlene with Miami Ghost Chronicles, Stories of the Supernatural. How is everybody doing? Good, I hope. And what I mean good, I hope, is that even though you might not be seeing this for just a little bit sooner than you think. Right now, in the United States, we're dealing with the reality of the COVID-19, the Wuhan flu, the Kung flu. I mean, there's a million names for it. Coronavirus, which has altered everybody's reality very, very quickly. And I don't think, I mean, it's affecting the entire world, but I'm going to speak in general to the United States because, we all kind of share more or less a similar lifestyle. It doesn't matter where in the United States you live. And so I don't think there's anybody that has not been affected by it. Obviously, some more than others, especially if you have a family member or a friend that's been affected, or you have a family member that's a first responder or works in the medical field. But somewhere, I don't think there is anybody that has not been affected by this scenario. That even the smallest towns, they're being. There's no way that you could be that isolated that you're not being affected some way, shape, whether it's because the law, well, not the laws, but some counties, some states, they've basically, you have to quarantine yourselves, or the 6 feet across from another person, and masks. It differs depending on where you're at in the United States. But anyway, all of this came about really, really quick for most people. So that's what I'm saying. I'm doing good. Luckily, my family's doing well. Like I'll tell you, I stay with my husband on our home, on our farmhouse. And as you know, I've got my chickens and everything. And like a few days ago, I gathered a bunch of eggs. I contacted all my kids, and I did it like I call an egg run, because around here there was a shortage of eggs. Basically, I dropped off like 24 eggs at each stop I made. And I didn't even go inside their houses. I told them, I left the stuff there, and which is really difficult, by the way. We stay in touch, obviously, on the phone, or, apps and everything, but it's very difficult just to say, here, something, my daughter, mom, I need some hand soap. I had a big giant bottle of hand soap. I dropped it off, have all those things, but it's like, but then we came back home. It was like a one-day thing, and we stayed home. And it's a twist to most people's reality, depending, of course, on your circumstances. And I don't want to be a pessimist because I don't believe in it, but the more time goes by, I think that when this dust settles on this, things will never be the same in our minds, because this will always be that one moment where people will, almost like what happened with 9/11, even if you weren't there, because in a way this is more far reaching than 9/11, because yeah, it affected the entire nation because they witnessed it, but of course the people that lived in New York or the first responders were the ones that were actually affected by it firsthand. But here everybody's been affected, where the reality, our reality, the way we view our lives is never going to be able to be pre this event. And I think some good and some bad will come up, and we'll see what happens with it. But anyway, let's get on to the good stuff. Of course, and thank God I do this online, because otherwise, I have a gentleman here that I've had before, you guys. Loved the last interview we did, and who I'm speaking about is Christian MacLeod, the Cryptid guy. And for those of you who are not familiar with Christian, he's the director and lead investigator of the ACAPS, which stands for Asheville Cryptid and Paranormal Society. He has over 24 years of experience investigating cryptids and paranormal activities. He's passionate for studying and preserving the Native American tribe culture, folklore, and legends. He's also knows about the topics such as the occult, the UFOs, forbidden archaeology, Freemasons, the Knights Templar, secret societies, and many other governmental cover-up allegations, conspiracy theories. And as a matter of fact, we were before we started rolling, we were talking about all these different scenarios that that everybody wonders about, especially now that you have so much time at home to think about them. But anyway, we've got a lot of interesting things to talk about. So if you could help me welcome Christian. How are you doing today, Chris?
I am excellent. Thank you so much for having me again, Marlene. It is a pleasure and an honor to be here.
Thank you.
And you know what? I was listening to your opening, and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I was listening to your opening, and I can't help but feel the same way. It's like we're in a different world. It's like is this really happening right now? And I just before we start, I just want to make sure all your viewers just always do one thing, and that's just be smart, use common sense, and be safe. Because you're right, this is going to be over soon, hopefully. But I think you're right. I don't think the world's ever going to be the same again.
No, and I don't mean that I don't want to say that in a negative
way. No, I don't either.
But mentally, I think that, because I know there's a lot of people with jobs, maybe they don't have a job to go back to. I'm talking besides that, but I'm saying mentally, there's just the one break, the you know how the BC, AD kind of thing, I know it's not that monumental, but everything will be referenced as before and after this coronavirus
You're absolutely
thing.
Right. Yeah, I agree, because it's going to change everything. Like we were briefly talking about how we feel so bad for students, especially like kids graduating, seniors, because they're missing all those memories that they're not going to have. So like this is going to be the year that it didn't happen, and I feel bad for them. But I think you're right. I think this is going to be a monumental time in history where it's like this is before and this is after, and now this is what we do after. Right. It's like now, I was in the grocery store and everyone's wearing masks, and the first couple times I saw it, it was like that's crazy. Now it's you expect to see it.
Yeah.
It's just it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's very strange times we're living in.
Let me tell you something. How everything happens. 2 weeks ago, my dishwasher broke down. 2 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago. It was like, talk about the worst. I know there's worse things that can break down. But bottom line, thankfully, Home Depot was still open. But when we went there, they had drawn like a taped off area, like the girls, in the appliance center. She had her desk, and you had to sit X amount of space away from her, which they demarcated, to talk about the purchase. Because I was asking her.
I get it.
It was like a surreal moment, like, oh my God, and she's looking at us like apologetic, and we're like, don't worry about it. We get it. We understand. But yeah, it was like, how can I say it? Most people, how that body space that normally people have around each other. Unless, most
bubble.
people honor it. Yeah, a little bubble that like, okay, I'm not going to crowd you especially if I don't know you or in a scenario like that. But it was like, you could tell she had gotten like all the, she goes, no, some customers understands and others don't, but you need to put the chairs like on the other side of that line. And I was like, okay, don't worry about it. We know this is not your decision. It's okay. But yeah, it's little things like that that give you like a little kick in the head kind of moment. Like, okay.
Yes, it's real. It's actually happening.
God forbid you sneeze. If you have an allergy
Yeah.
attack, you might as well just stay home because
I
you
am
will
taking
clear
my
a
Zyrtec
store.
before I walk out that front door.
You will clear a store. People will be like running from you, like ah. Yeah.
I was in the grocery store and I was picking up a few things, and this older woman, she gets a cart and she's in front of me, and she looks at me and like there was lines on the floor.
Yeah.
And she looks at me and she goes, "You see where that tape is, right?" And I said, "Yes, ma'am." She goes, "Don't get any closer than that tape." No, yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
Yeah,
All right then.
it's
All right then. That's exactly what she said.
that is like, yeah, and like I said, we go shopping, food shopping at the local Walmart, the marketplace,
Mhm.
and if they tally how many the people walk in, they've never been enough people that they've said no, you can't, or there's a line, but they put this poor person out here like doing this little tally stroke, and my husband,
He's the new guy.
we each had a, yeah, I know. It's like, who's that? Yeah, who's gonna get this? Let's draw straws. No. You're the lowest guy in the totem pole. But yeah, it was like me and my husband. We each had a cart, and I tell the guy, well, he's with me, and he goes, no, I gotta count each cart. I was like, okay, all right, whatever. But yeah, it's insignificant stuff, and we laugh about it because in a way it's funny to us because it's like.
Well, if you don't laugh, you're gonna cry.
Well,
I mean,
I think is that things change so rapidly that it's like there was no lead up to this, where,
no.
like I said, that if you sneeze, people look at you like all alarmed, and it's like, what? How did we get here? And by this, I don't mean to say how serious it is, but at the same time, people can sneeze, and it doesn't mean they're sick. People sneeze because they have an allergy, or you sneeze. It's like, yeah, people like get wigged out over such a human thing, whereas before you sneeze and people say "bless you" or whatever. It's like,
Yeah. They say something else that ends in you.
now it's like everybody clears around. You're like.
You get beat up, someone throws a watermelon at you. Get
Yeah,
out of here.
exactly. Yeah, and there's a lot of, and we were talking about, there's some, what you were saying about being safe, but that there's a degree of how logical am I going to be about this? But there's people out there that are really, 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 really scared. Okay, illogically scared.
Oh yeah, they are.
Yes.
Well, I mean, I see it too. I mean, like we've got these people and they're walking around and they've got gloves, they've got the breather on. I mean, I get it, and they're terrified. You can tell they're terrified to go out, but they have to go out. I mean, it's just the way it is. So I guess it's our new normal. I mean,
right.
And I was reading, and then you have these people that are lunatics, like someone in a grocery store was purposely sneezing and spitting on the fruit, and
What
I guess
is
did you
that?
see that?
See that?
And then all these people tackled them or her. I don't know who it was. But
Yeah.
this person got tackled.
I don't blame
and I don't blame them. But I mean, they're just. I mean, people are losing it.
Well, because
It's getting crazy out there.
Yeah, and it's really, and it's funny, but for all you know, this person absolutely doesn't have it, but they're just trying to basically screw with people's heads. And it's like, this is the wrong thing to do because people, whereas before they'd be like, you pig, what are you doing? Okay.
Yeah, now you're going to get killed.
Now, exactly. It's like, yeah, good luck. Even the old lady is going to come after you with and club you with something.
Yeah, that's when they'll do you in with their cane.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like, and we were talking about also, that up to a point, this is reality. But you know how we've been primed because in the last few years we've had these onslaughts of the zombie apocalypse.
Oh, yeah. Zombie apocalypse. Yep.
And even though, of course, we're not talking here zombies, but it's always been, if you look at all these movies or stories or whatever, it happens from one day to the next where life as you know it suddenly comes to a screeching halt. And we were talking about, I'm sure that everybody, when this started to roll out, where people were being told to stay home, work from home, or whatever, everybody was having these flashbacks to that last movie or series that they saw of some zombie movie.
Oh yeah.
Going, what?
I was thinking Walking Dead myself.
Yeah,
I mean, I was
Walking
like,
Dead,
great.
exactly. Exactly, yeah.
Great, I'm gonna have to get to the woods.
Right, you know, like, should I go get a samurai sword just in case? Like, am
Yeah,
I gonna be the
just in
next to be
case.
shown? You know, like, yeah.
Don't have to reload that thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, whatever. I mean, yeah, that you know, and even though people know that it's strictly fiction, but I think the premise of the story, which is what happens when society kind of like from one moment to the next loses the anchors that keep us in place, law and order, and all this thing. What happens?
Well, I mean, yeah, but you're right there too, because it's a couple fold though. If you look at it this way, it's like it happened because we were pushing the boundaries of medical science, and we did something we shouldn't have. And
Right.
what are we doing now? We're always doing that.
Exactly.
I'm still not convinced this wasn't a man-made
Right.
virus. I know we talked a little bit about
Yes,
that. I mean,
yes.
I'll give it the benefit of the doubt, but it would not surprise me if this wasn't man-made,
Right.
because the way it seems to attack people, going after the lungs and the heart and all that other stuff,
Yes.
that to me just doesn't seem like a normal virus. I'm not a medical doctor. I don't know. As a normal functioning human being in this society, that just seems a little bit much to me. But, I could be wrong.
Well,
I hope I am, but
this is the thing that, they recognize a lot of these viruses, sometimes they do start out with animals, but they don't mutate to where humans can become infected. In other words, they don't jump the species barrier. And I think that's where some people think, like, how did that happen? Was this something that was tweaked in a lab to be able to affect humans, whereas on its own, it would have just stayed affecting or infecting an animal, whatever animal it originated from? Or was there something done to it where all of a sudden...
I don't know, but you're right.
And I mean, God knows there's I mean, it's not like there haven't been sicknesses or plagues, throughout human history. There has been. But and it's of course, and I want to say there's so much different because we have travel, we have air travel, whereas if you look at historically at most plagues, they usually would come in through port cities, where ships would come in.
Exactly. Yeah.
They would come in through port cities, but then it would spread slow. It was because, of course, you didn't have the type of travel that we have now. Within a few hours, you could be in another continent. So, I mean, we're in a moment in history as far as contagion is concerned that it's unprecedented. Like in other, like before, and I think that like we were saying, the reality is, which I think a lot of it is still like there's a big question mark with a lot of what has to do with this, whether the origins of it, who are the most vulnerable, eventually how many of us actually could die from it, because let's face it, the majority of the population has not been tested. How much truth is there that a lot of people are asymptomatic, or other people think that they just have a head cold, for all they know. They never get a full hospitalization type event. So I mean,
right, and all the people they encounter, they're infecting other people, right? I mean,
right,
so.
Yeah, they could be shedding, and like even there's a lot of stuff like chickenpox. There's a bunch of other diseases that you could be spreading before you become down with symptoms yourself. But we have things to treat them with. And I don't think if and when we get answers, it's still a long ways down the road till we get actually definitive answers to a lot of those questions. The reality
but that's a key phrase right there. Definitive answers. See, we're not ever going to get definitive answers.
Well, and
they're going to give us some broad strokes here, but I don't think we're ever going to know the whole gambit of what's really going on here.
Because, normally when things are done like that, it's to help somebody escape responsibility for it, in my opinion. That's the only reason why.
Oh yeah.
Something is like given like what is it when they don't lie, they just omit the truth portions of it, that kind of thing.
Exactly. We don't know what that was.
I think that eventually that because let's face it, I don't think that, again, I'm going to speak as an American, and I don't think Americans are going to just forget about this and like, okay, well, that's over. No, people eventually are going to want answers about this. Okay.
Well, I mean, I think you made a good point when we were prepping off air. I think you made a real good point where I think this is going to make people want to have an American foundation for manufacturing again, because everyone's gonna. I don't want to. I mean, a lot of people aren't going to want to buy anything made in China now. I mean, this is just it's another. It's just kind of a slap in the face that if all this stuff is true,
I did not realize, not till now. Okay, I did not realize how many medications, not only out of in China, but in other countries, they're not manufactured in the United States. I didn't realize that.
I had no clue.
It was like,
in my head. Yeah.
It was
I'm sorry, Marlon, but in my head. Sorry.
No. Go ahead.
We'll get to. But I was going to say, in my head, I thought all the pills and everything we took here in America were made here, because everyone's always complaining about pharmaceutical prices.
Yes.
I always thought it's because they were made here. I was just naive and ignorant. I did not know. I had no clue that everything was made everywhere else.
You know what? And this is another thing, that sometimes if it's manufactured, sometimes it's not even the actual drug, the ingredients that go. And and if you see, let's say the manufacturer is an American company, okay, everybody assumes, stupidly, you know what they say about assuming, that that it's manufactured here in the United States, and they don't realize that it could be manufactured, or the actual ingredients come. In other words, if those ingredients are not provided to the company, even if they do have, they're here in the United States, they still can't manufacture it. And it was like, I think that in a way, I want to say it's a silver lining amidst all this that's going on, where people are having that what WTF moment about this. Going, wait a minute, you mean that if any of these countries outside the United States decide to hold us hostage for medicines, let's say you're somebody that has some type of illness that you need to take a daily dose of whatever, that you all of a sudden somebody could withhold these drugs from us, and what would happen? I think a lot of people
we'd have to manufacture it here.
Well, that's what I'm hoping, but it's like, okay, how fast can they? How can? And I know.
Yeah, how fast?
Well, the fast, and let's face it, it also comes down to the bottom line. The bean
money,
counters, the bean counters, saying, well, you know what? If we now manufacture this whatever drug, even if it's the most generic thing, our profit is going to go down on this, because we have to pay differently for the manufacturing of it than if we have it, keep it where it's at.
Yep.
So
it always comes down to the money, doesn't it? It's all about the money.
Of course, but I don't think that. I think that they need to pass laws, and this is my opinion. They need to pass laws to, if you are an American company, especially something like this, you need to manufacture it here. And if you don't, then, hey, some other rich guy that wants to put a company together, this is a great market. This is a great time to do it, to put a pharmaceutical.
Well, I also think we should. I agree. I'm with you 100%. There's absolutely no reason why we can't manufacture pretty much everything we need in this country. There's no reason for it. It all just boils. It boils down to the bottom line, and it's all about money. And I understand that. But sometimes you got to make, you can make a little more money on something else.
Yeah.
In my opinion, and I also think, if it comes down to it, and companies don't want to do that, then I would put tariffs on the stuff coming in.
Exactly.
Because it works.
Yeah. I'm with
you.
Believe it or not, Americans have a lot of disposable income. That we're the ones that buy a lot of the stuff beyond the very basic necessities, which there's a lot of populations in other countries, even Western and well-developed countries, do not have the disposable income that we do to buy some of these goods, which is what you're when you're saying as far as tariff, putting a tariff on some of these, like if you want to sell to the American public, well, and you want to stay outside of the United States, well, there's a price to be paid for that. And yeah, absolutely. But I mean, these are things that we were talking about, that even once this, whenever, because right now there's a question mark as to when kind of people get back to work and everything starts rolling along, that after that, there's still repercussions that I see down beyond the health thing. In other words, that
Oh yeah, I
are
mean,
going
this
to come
is like
because of
it's
this.
going to change the landscape of businesses. Like we were talking about that earlier, it's going to change the landscape of small restaurants.
Yes,
You know,
yes,
where I live, I don't think half these places are going to open up again.
yeah,
I don't think they're going to be able to. They're just,
yes,
they were probably just making it paycheck to paycheck like everyone else.
yes,
And this is just really throwing a wrench in the works. I mean, this is just kind of
yeah,
messed everything up,
yes, yes.
and it's tragic. I have nothing but pity for these people.
Yeah,
Well,
there's a lot of
it's sad.
we were also talking about that we mentioned that a lot of people that the companies sent them to work from home, and after this the
Uh-huh.
company's going to realize they still save money and they'll just keep people working from home. They'll just say, hey, you know what,
You're
this
right.
worked out better than we thought. Plus, this something similar ever happens, you'll we won't have to worry about it, and we can downsize our office space. And guess what? So yeah, I see a lot of changes as far as our economy and the way we live our lives, and God, a lot of stuff down the road after this. Like we said, after the 2020 will be that demarcation, and
Yep.
you know, in some of it is going to be positive, other things are going to be negative, depending. But you know what? I would rather know the reality, like with this thing that we just talked about, that the manufacturer of some very important things. Because another thing I heard is that sometimes there's parts to machinery that are manufactured outside of the United States. In other words, even if you have that machine that's manufactured here, if you don't have that part that's manufactured out of here,
Exactly.
it's not necessarily just pharmaceuticals, drugs. It could be other things. I'd rather know the truth of what we're learning than keep living under this misconception that we're always going to have these things available because they're made in the United States. And it's like, no, it's not. Well, we need to fix this. I'd rather have that and address it than be living under the false pretense thinking that, of course, we can go anywhere and it's going to be there for us. Yeah, it's a lot of things that happen. And getting onto that, we also spoke about, we're going to sidestep into the Bigfoot territory that you
Yes,
had
ma'am.
mentioned the last time, that you thought, and this was before, of course, any of this thing of the COVID-19 was going on, that you mentioned as far as that you believe that there was some Bigfoot, that they were being affected, their population was being affected by disease.
Well, right. Yeah. Now, see, I've got this theory, and I think it's just common sense to me, and I could be wrong, but I don't think I am. There's a book called Pax Americana. In this book, they talk about basically the year 1776, and it's a book about American history. But what it does is it talks about all the things going on around the country besides what was happening in New England vis-a-vis the Revolutionary War. And smallpox was ravaging the western coast, South America, and Canada. And there were still parts of New England that had a lot of smallpox issues. Now, the one thing about smallpox is this. Smallpox will jump from humans to great apes.
Wow.
So if you have Sasquatch and he's near someone that's infected, guess what's going to happen to him? He's going to get it, and he's going to bring it back to his tribe, and they're all going to get it. So there's actually stories in the northern Canadian provinces of Sasquatches coming to humans for help because they're dying from smallpox. And the natives up there couldn't do anything because they were dying from it. So there's stories about how they just lay down next to the humans and die next to them. So, I mean, it makes sense to me. And it's also, I think, another correlation that if Dogman has any primate DNA or he's susceptible to the same thing, that's probably exactly what happened to them. So that brings me to my point now, where we are in 2020, all this time's gone by. They've had time to build up their immunity, their population's increased. And again, the Cynocephali or Dogman, they've had the same ability to do the same thing. So that's why we're having all these sightings and everything. That's why everything's just increased so much. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that, the technology's better. The internet's there. If you see something, you can report it online. 50 years ago, you couldn't do that. It was all word of mouth. And I know a lot of people think it's all because of deforestation and this and that. I've said this before, I'll say it again. The North American continent is 86% intact.
Right.
from the day the first Europeans landed here. Think about that. That means that we've only taken 14% of this continent.
Yes.
And that's all our roads, our infrastructure, houses, apartments, condos, buildings, cities, everything.
Yes.
That's only 14%, and everything else is still intact. So, and then if you throw the natural, the national forest system in there and all the millions of acres they have, you can't tell me there's not enough space for these creatures.
Oh, let me tell you something.
And this
when
is
you
why.
take a road trip, if you've ever taken any type of road trip across the United States, you realize that. You're like, wait a minute, there's nothing out here. Yeah, and it doesn't matter what state you're in. Yeah. Yeah,
exactly. I mean, you can drive from New York City, and in a couple hours, you're in, upstate New York, and it's forest.
Yes.
So people don't get that. I mean, that's what you have to understand. It's just these vast tracts of untouched timber and land that these creatures can live in without a problem. And the other thing is, when people talk about clear cutting, well, Marlene, when you clear cut something, grass tends to grow.
Right.
And when you have a lot of grass that grows, you have the animals that eat the grass. Their numbers tend to grow. Yes. So then what you do is when you have the alpha predators in that area that have a limitless food supply, guess what? Their numbers start to expand. So it all comes full circle. It makes total sense to me, but again, that's just my theory. That's just how I think it works.
Exactly. And people don't realize that because, we were talking about, where a virus or some disease jumps the species barrier from animal to human, but it can work the other way in reverse as well.
Definitely. I agree.
And we can go to medicines or treatment, but an animal, unless they're being cared for by a human being, they are not. Especially if they have no immune any antibodies whatsoever in their bodies for it.
I would wonder. I'd even venture to guess. I mean, how much quicker would they die than like a human being being exposed to a pathogen? The same pathogen. I mean, I would guess they'd probably die quicker.
Yes.
Because they have less immunity. I mean, I guess. I don't know. I'm just guessing.
Well,
we
always
something scary.
We think about animal being more robust. In other words, being, but not necessarily, not all the time, especially when it comes to disease. I mean, let's face it. Look at the lifespan of a human being versus animals. Most animals that we know of. Okay, I think with the exception of elephants. We're one of the most, longest living, maybe tortoises or,
tortoises, maybe elephants. Sharks.
We're one of the longest living animals. Overall, our lifespan's pretty long compared to the animal kingdom. So, I would say that, for most animals that would contract some type of diseases that kill, they would probably die right away. I don't think their survival rate would be that, unless they were getting some type of treatment. But out in the wild,
I've never heard anyone discuss this either. Like the way we're talking about it, actually, like the comparison. I've never even heard anyone discuss that. So I mean, that's probably something that's a new topic.
Well,
and you heard it right here on Marlene's show.
Well, I mean, we always think of, like you said, what's the effect that we always think of our effect on. Let's say animals, our footprint, whatever you want to call it, as in, I know a lot of people look at it like, let's say, for the hunting or, all these other things, but there's a lot of other stuff that now when we're talking about diseases or viruses or whatever that can jump from one species to another, whether it can do it naturally or, in this case, what we're talking that was tweaked.
Or genetically, now that we're playing with genetics, like or creating all these things, we don't even know where everything comes from anymore.
Or like what they, one of the theories that's out there was that some of the humans got it because they were eating infected animals. What if it's the other way around? What if you have an animal that's eating an infected human being?
That's true too.
Or
what if it's from GMO foods? What if some of the food that they did GMO stuff with and it's not right? I mean, I don't know. There's so many different possibilities.
I mean, it could. Let's go down pretend land, whatever. There's a lot of people that go out, let's say, to these parks and they die, or they even go out there to commit suicide. I hate to say it. or they fall down a ravine, or they pass. Let's go down missing 411. All these people that disappear. Let's say it's
Exactly.
they're being eaten by predators, which is what they normally do. And this person, you've got an infected human being, and this animal basically eats this human being. Can it work in the other way around, where ingesting the flesh of an infected human gets this animal infected, because that's how normally they wouldn't. In other words, they wouldn't have caught it by a sneeze, is what I'm saying. It's
right.
because they actually ingested
But they ingested it, yeah. I mean, that's a good point, Marlene. I would not say that's out of the realm of possibility.
Well, I mean, why not? I mean, if we're talking, it's a possibility. If we're and the thing is, you know how they say you don't know when you dodge the bullet, you don't know you dodged it because you dodged it. It's the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
If an animal, if that scenario ever played out, even if it was rare, and this animal lives in the middle of nowhere and it goes off and dies, who's to say what was the reason for the animal's death? Okay, unless
let's take it to the next step. Yeah.
Go ahead.
What if that animal goes off and dies in the woods, and then another animal eats his carcass and gets infected?
Exactly.
And then they're all over the place.
Right.
Suppose vermin come and eat some of the remains, and then they get infected, and they scatter off into the four winds, and they're all over the place. And next thing you know, you've got a rat infestation. Yeah. So I mean, yeah, I can totally see where this could go.
Or there's some animals that are solitary, but they get together to mate. Okay.
Yep.
And let's say that then all of a sudden you've got an infected animal mates with another one, passes it on through the mating process, and possibly, depending on what it is, also the fetuses, the offspring, are also infected. Why not?
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily. Or what if whatever it is initially it's not. Doesn't kill them, but you know how they say a lot of these viruses, they mutate to the point where then they become lethal. Oh
yeah.
In other words, a certain animal can pass it on to other animals of a species. They don't necessarily. It doesn't have to be because of their ingesting. The same way that humans can pass it to another human, whichever way, and there you go, and then it becomes, and maybe down the road, like you were talking about, you see a decrease in certain amounts of animals, and nobody can account, like, why is this animal all of a sudden there's less of them, or weird stuff like that. I mean, this is it's theories, but I don't think they're out of the realm of some type of a reality to it, because there's just no way for anybody to know or to study it if you don't know what you're looking for. In other words. Or what the origins were.
I don't think we know what we're looking for.
Yeah.
You're right.
So it just puts this whole thing that now we're looking, because of the moment that we're living in, this reality that's dropped on our heads like a 2x4, that we're looking at the effects of contagion, okay, or how passing it on and the whole thing, and it's a really weird kind of thing. And I even mentioned to you, that Stephen King novel that came out in the 1980s, The Stand, which was a big, thick book, and it was a very immersed kind of read. But the backdrop of it was a pandemic event, where, of course, evil basically is, it surfaces, in other words, amid the destruction or the dissolution of society. So yeah, I mean, I think that it's also part of our subconscious mind that we look at part of what's going on, apart from the strictly medical numbers thing. And today I read an article where there's a bishop in Italy, and I know they've been hit really hard. They've been spanked hard with this, and I don't mean this in a superfluous way to use the word spanked, but that he was saying that the effects of Satan or evil, however you want to look at it, and he was asking the priest, in other words, when they're doing the Mass for Easter, to basically do a passage of the rites of exorcism of the Roman ritual into the Mass, into the Easter Mass. because
Well, that doesn't surprise me.
yeah, yes.
Think about the Great Plague, the Black Plague.
Mm-hmm.
That's where the term "God bless you" came, because when you started sneezing, that was usually an indication that you were going to get it.
Yeah, yes.
So it doesn't surprise me. And again, as a man of faith, if there's good in the world, then there has to be evil, and sometimes evil, rears its ugly head.
Yes.
And usually when there's some kind of tragedy going on, and I'd definitely call a pandemic a tragedy. So I can totally see where they get the correlation for evil for this, nasty virus. But, I think it also depends on how people handle it. Now, you and I were talking about how some people handle things differently. Some people can't handle being cooped up in their house with their spouse and their kids and all that, and there's no problems. And some people freak out. And I think it just depends on the individual. I mean, you and I were lucky, we've got great spouses, mm-hmm. We enjoy our time with them, and that makes things easy for me and you, as we were discussing. But some people just can't do that.
Well, and think of it, Chris, in reality, it makes you think, and I hope it doesn't come to that. I really don't, because I think that besides the effect on the economy, let's take that off the table. How long can people go living under these circumstances like this, with this uncertainty? I mean, even the most well-intentioned people that now are all friendly and understanding, and it's like, okay, I'm willing to follow the rules, and if I'm told to do this or not do this, I'm going to go because I want to be part of the solution. If this rolls into months and months, if you think those good intentions are not going to fall by the wayside, I think that even the best person is going to start going stir crazy.
No, I agree. I think you're 100% right. I think you've probably got maybe another 2 weeks before things start really going south.
Well, there's there's a lot of people that, I personally think, with my background in mental health, that human beings need interaction with other human beings.
Yeah.
Different
We're
doses.
Social creatures.
If you're an extrovert, if you're an introvert, I know there's some people that are not into crowds. That's fine. But every human being that I know of that isolates themselves, they suffer for it. Spiritually, mentally, emotionally, they suffer for it. We all need human interaction of some.
I agree.
Depending on our personality. And I think that it's there's people out there that, even if they're not what you call the touchy-feely type, even they got coworkers, or they've got the guy at the grocery store that, that they say hi and they talk to, or the mailman, or the all that. And I'm talking here for the person that's like very, they're not into like very, they still need that. That's the human thing, the human condition. And I think the more distance we put that, there's gonna be people that are not gonna do well, that they're doing okay now, but if this takes longer and longer and longer, we're gonna have. I feel that the mental health community is going to be. You know how everybody's worried now about the hospitals being overrun. I think that a lot of mental health counselors are going to be overrun, and I know that a lot of the medical fields they're doing now that video, basically doctor visit, and that with the mental health, that can work, but I'm telling you, nothing takes the place of a face-to-face, the human, even if that person is sitting on the other side of the room from you, where that they can discuss it. I'm telling you, I can see where down the field there's people that are that the mental health people are going to be like, I'm overrun. I'm booked back to back. People that maybe have never gone to a therapist or counselor are going to need those services. I'm for sure, because they themselves will fall into depression, hopelessness, a bunch of stuff. So yeah, this is another dimension of what might come of this if this just keeps on going, whatever. And plus, a lot of people don't know how to handle the question mark that comes with a lot of that's going on. And and I wanted to. We were discussing how people don't realize, and people might think, well, it doesn't matter, but like you said, your tours, you haven't been able to do any of your tours. Same things goes for paranormal investigations. You can't, supposedly.
Oh, I don't know any of my and no one in my team or in my organization's been doing anything.
Right.
I'm very friendly with a lot of other teams all over the country, actually, and I don't know anyone that's doing anything right now, paranormal or cryptid.
No.
Unless it's like in their backyard. All the national parks are closed. They can't go. You can't go camping. There's really no place you can go. So unless you have a big tract of land that you own, where there's a cryptid or paranormal hotspot, there's really nothing you can do.
Right.
And it's bad.
Yeah, you can't. So and this is this is something where, and let's face it. I mean, you could Skype with somebody, let's say on a paranormal case, but I mean, how far can you go with that? Besides, like,
it's not. I actually tried doing that the other day.
Really? What happened with that?
It doesn't. No, we got some information and some details, but the truth of the matter is you have to be there. You have to get a equipment reading. I got to have my people in there that know what to look for and how they're feeling and what their gut instinct says. And you just can't do that online.
Yeah, I mean, this equates to like a pre-interview. Okay, tell me what you're experiencing. Tell me, whatever the story is that's going on, and you ask them some questions.
And what do you know about the property? And that's all it is.
Exactly. And then after that, so I'm thinking to myself, because of course the paranormal is, like I said, I had my dishwasher break down in the middle of all this. I was like, oh my God, my dishwasher. But I'm thinking, can you imagine here all of a sudden you have an uptick in your paranormal activity because now you're stuck at home. Maybe there's a little bit of tension, which, there's that theory where paranormal events.
That'll do it. That'll get it going.
The dynamics in the family fuel any negativity. And all of a sudden this goes from kind of so lukewarm occurrences to like full-blown. And who are you gonna call? Nobody, because
all I'm saying is film it. Film it is all I'm saying. Just film it.
Yeah, there's nobody, even if they wanted to, for just whatever's going on, people, you can't get people out there. So there's going to be, I think, a lot of people that have been experiencing things where maybe they've been putting it off, they've been in denial, or it was mild. It was like, but especially if you have like, how people are in and out and they come and go, and and all
they're not there all the time.
They're stuck in there all the time.
And that bad energy is just building up and making that energy stronger and stronger. Yep.
Or they're there to witness a lot of things, even in daytime. Let's say, how everybody's out, either at school or at work, the family, whatever. And everybody comes home, and then they're home, and their dinner and homework and, watching TV. And then before you go to bed. So, yeah, they'll hear some stuff. But now all of a sudden they're there, and they're witnessing stuff. And it's not the middle of the night. It's in the middle of the day. Okay. And then, of course, like you said, the tension, maybe, like, oh, I'm telling you, I know there's going to be a lot of paranormal cases, wild ones, by the way, that are going to come as a result of this. And let's go down the road of where you have a case where you do have a dark entity, an intelligent haunting, that if you don't think that it's going to take advantage of fueling problems, because basically that's what it thrives on. If we're looking at something that's dark versus just a regular haunting.
This is a recipe for disaster for that.
Yes, it is.
I mean, that's a nightmare. That's a living nightmare right there. If you have to go through that, if there's a dark entity and there's all the negative energy in the house, it's going to build up. There'll be episodes.
Well, and let's go. And this is kind of a little bit controversial now in the middle of all of this, which is that they are not allowing church service. Like the gathering that you would normally have in a church. Some churches, or they've done it outside. They'll do it from the car. Right. They're trying to come up with all these ideas, to basically avoid people getting sick, but at the same time,
you got to worry about
able
spiritual
to worship.
health. Yeah. See, like I said, this is just my opinion, and that's what it is. It's my opinion. I think the lack of spirituality in a time like this is very dangerous, because this is when the dark entities, this is the time they live for.
Of course.
This is when they can come out. This is when they can feed off all the negative energy and get stronger and stronger. And even if they could do that prior, and you say you have a person that goes to church every Sunday.
Yeah.
So this energy might be building up during the week, but on Sunday, it puts the kibosh on it, and they start from scratch again.
Yeah.
Well, now this person has been going, 3 weeks, all this negative energy building up, and there's no church to cleanse it.
Right.
So it's just going to get more and more powerful. Again, that's just my belief, and I'm with you. I say that as I stare across my desk, and I've got 2 bottles of holy water, but it's just.
You know what?
That's just the way my house is.
Of course, but how can I say it? I even see where there's a lot of people that maybe are lackadaisical. Not that they're not spiritual or religious, but they're lackadaisical about attending services, which now feel a need. Like, I want, I need that reassurance that
I
God
need that too.
is going to take care of us and make things come out okay for us. Okay.
Right. I need to go to church every Sunday, and I need that. But that's just me. I need that. It makes me feel better. It makes puts me in a better mood.
Yes.
And that, like I said, and I'm a normal guy. I mean, that's just probably normal for everyone.
Right.
And I think you're right. Some people need that, and I'm one of them. And it sounds like you are too. So I mean, we have that outlet. But you can. I try not to get too fundamentally religious on anything, but when I need to talk to God, I'll talk to God.
Of course.
And I can do that anywhere.
What if you're one of these people that's like quasi-religious, spiritual, but not really heavy going into church, but now all of a sudden weird stuff starts going on in your house, or you start hearing scratching on the walls, or you start having these really out there nightmares, and you're thinking, man, I need to go to my corner church and talk to somebody, but you really can't. Or something's trying to again, I'm going to go down the road less traveled. A dark entity is trying to get a grip on you. And like you said, if you were able to go to church or services or whatever it is, it pushes it back. You keep it at a distance. But if you're not able to do that, if you're not able to be surrounded by people in prayer, for example.
Well, I understand, but I still think, in a situation like that, you need to have the common fortitude to start praying and taking that upon yourself, because that's the situation that can be fixed, and but you have to go through the steps, and one of those steps is just prayer. And again, this is just my opinion, but I think anyone in that situation, and if if I was talking to one of your listeners and they were having that situation, I would just tell them, and again, I don't care what religion you are. Mm-hmm. I would say just start praying to whatever deity you pray to,
right?
And just get that overwhelming sense of calm that comes with that particular meditation for a human being.
Yes.
And I think things would be all right.
Yes.
And if it gets beyond that, then I would go somewhere else and quarantine. I mean,
well,
if it's possible. I mean,
you know what? It's almost like. It's almost like in the movies, if you're going to go look for the monster, you want somebody with you. When people are in a scary situation, it's like, if I got somebody with me, like, hey, you know what? I'm scared because I don't know what's going to come of this. Or in the case of what we're talking about, that maybe you're experiencing something in your house. And it's almost like I need that reassurance of having other people around me. It's a really weird scenario, and here I'm talking from the perspective of people having paranormal experiences, either because it's been there all along, and now they're like, God, they're having to deal with it, or something that maybe just developed. I mean, there's a lot of because as well as I do. Sometimes the cases you don't know what the point of origin is. Sometimes you do,
and you don't, and that's the hard part. Because if you knew, then you could fix it.
Right.
And that's where it gets tricky. You have to that's where the research comes into play.
Yes.
And 9 times out of 10, people think that the paranormal, you just go out there. Movies have not been good to the paranormal because they give people the wrong idea.
Yeah, I know.
You're not sitting there battling a demon or a ghost and throwing holy water or some John Constantine stuff. That's ridiculous. It's nonsense. All right, 9 times out of 10, you're reading, you're doing research on the area, you're interviewing people, asking them if they've seen any strange occurrences, and then you're hoping they don't think you're a lunatic. And then,
right.
And then you just basically hit them with this. Have you seen a ghost? Is anything strange? It takes time to do that, and it takes a lot of time. And again, you have to research the place, the property, the people that live there. I mean, Tanya and I, my buddy that I investigate with, we're doing this house right now. This place is just insane, and we can't figure out why. I personally think it's got something to do with Native Americans because of the location.
Okay.
But these people have been having problems since day one, just strange stuff. But what they've done is they put cameras in all over the place, and they've been posting their footage online, and it's been getting a lot worse. And I told them to stop doing that. I said, whatever you're doing, you're making it angry. Mm-hmm. And they're like, oh, what are you talking about? I said, well, you're noticing that the more attention that you're giving this thing and the more attention it's receiving, it doesn't like that. It doesn't want attention, wants to be left alone.
Yes.
And it's acting out. So stop filming. Well, they didn't listen. They're still doing it. Mm-hmm. And their problems have gone, there's been an uptick.
Yes.
Well, the second they stop filming, guess what happens?
It died down.
It dies down. So, it's just things like that. But here's the question mark. Why? Why is it doing that? What place, what is this specific area that's doing this? And then I've got another family in a situation like that, and they don't have any problems. They actually think it's kind of cool, because they have an entity and they catch, every once in a while they catch something on film. But again, there's nothing maleficent about it. It's not coming, it's not coming for anyone. It's not doing anything nasty. So again, I think it's area, and it depends on stuff. And, I think it depends on the situation going on at home. And I also think it depends on what caused this entity not to cross over, or what it caused it to stay in this realm. So when you have an issue going on like what we've got now, this pandemic, mm-hmm. I think paranormally we're going to see a huge uptick.
Yes. Yes.
Because it's a violent death. It's not, it's a death that's not.
Yes.
I mean, it's a natural death, but it's what I would refer. I call this a violent death dying from this, because it's not something you thought you were going to die from. It's not old age. It's not just a natural process thing. You've actually caught a virus,
right,
and you're going to die from it. So that's just what I call it. I don't consider that a natural death. I would call that a violent death. Well, and I think we're going to have an uptick in paranormal activities from it.
Well, there's going to be, because I want to say, there's some people that were sick already, and, but there's a lot of them that, right, even if they were sick,
natural death.
They were, in other words, they had something wrong, but they were okay. They're living, in other words.
Right.
I've got this going on, but I'm going to still live. I expect to be able to live. I might need to take meds, but I'm going to be living.
Right.
And I think that, like you said, a lot of people, this has taken them out of the, I can live maybe another 20, 30 years as long as I take my meds and I go see my doctor.
Exactly.
That's it. You die, basically, based on the descriptions of pneumonia, where your lungs, which is when they get intubated, your lungs are no longer working. You're not able to breathe.
Right. Exactly. And that to me is like, that's a violent death. I mean, that's an unnatural death. Yes. This virus is murdering people, and that's what I would classify as an unnatural death. And again, that's just my opinion. That's just the way I look at things. I've been doing this for 24 years. I have views and opinions that are different than other people's, mm-hmm. but that's just because of things I've experienced and investigated and the research I've done. So, I mean, that's where I come up with it. I'm just pulling this out of my, out of the air to be controversial. This is how I think, and this is how a lot of my team think. Now, I've got other people on my team that think I'm crazy, but you need that, you need that dichotomy. You need you need the positive and the negative,
Right.
So that's why we do what we do.
And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, as far as, even in a team, because that's, as a matter of fact, that's how you come up with solutions or different perspectives on a case, or what, the point of origin is, or why is, I'm sure you've heard of people living for years in a certain location. Nothing happens, and all of a sudden things start happening.
Boom. Yep.
And you're like, okay, so what happened? What changed?
Why? Right.
Exactly.
So-and-so moved in, right?
Yeah.
There's always something, there's always some kind of X factor.
Yes.
I did a long time ago, I did this case in New Jersey. I investigated it, and this guy had lived there since the end of World War II. I mean, he'd been there forever, and he had run into some financial problems, and he had rented out one of his rooms. And all of a sudden, all this crazy stuff started happening, and the guy that was renting out the room just disappeared. But he left a bunch of stuff there, and in the stuff he found like a Necromonicon. He said he found a bunch of black clothes, and there's something called a Ouija board, an Ouija board. And I'm like, a Ouija board? And he's like, yeah. He goes, yeah, so it's probably a problem right there. Yeah. And I asked him, I said, you have any faith? He goes, well, I'm Catholic. I said, well, why don't you get your house blessed and see if that calms it down? Sure enough, and then he goes, well, what do I do with this stuff? And I said, I would burn it.
Oh, yeah.
So, and he took it outside. He opened up, he had an old school Weber kettle grill. Mm-hmm. He put everything in there. He doused it with a lighter fluid. And his son arranged to have the house blessed. And boom, no more problems.
You know what? I've heard.
So, I mean,
you'd be surprised how many people have that happen to them, where they rent out an apartment or a room or something, or even a roommate.
You never know what you're going to get.
And things that their life goes sideways big time, and it's all because of that. And it's what's really funny is they kind of do the same thing. They have afterwards they have found stuff like hidden away, stuff with dark, really, whatever. Whether it's not even the Ouija board, just really dark stuff hidden later on, and they've been pulling their hair out trying to figure out how, what, when. And I laugh because people think, okay, sometimes people do background checks on, let's say, a potential roommate, as an example. But there's nothing in somebody's background that's going to tell you, oh, this person, sacrifices animals. There's that's
you don't know
up in anything. So yeah.
Marlene, I don't judge anyone for their religious beliefs. I don't.
Right.
I mean, if they want to do that, that's fine. They can worship wherever they want to worship there. It's just when they start causing problems to other people or hurting other people, that's when I say, hey, that's not right. That's when I draw a line. If someone wants to worship whoever, that's up to them. That's their God-given right. But when they start affecting other people negatively or on purpose, then that's where I draw the line. That's where I say, no, that's a problem. That's when you have to stop or have to put your foot down. Because that's just not fair. That's not what you do.
People being like exactly like what you just said. Hey, you know what? It's cool, whatever. But then something goes south down the road, and they're almost afraid to tell this person you need to move out because.
Well, that's why unfortunately, it's one of those things where you just that's where faith comes into play. Because usually if you're a person of faith, they don't want to be there.
Yeah. Oh no. But
and and that's just my my humble opinion. It's funny. I've got where I live. There's a big, diverse population, and a very close friend of mine. She's just great. She's a dear friend of mine. She's a practicing Wicca. She's very, very much into Wicca. She's got her own coven.
Right.
She's a white witch. She'll be the first one to tell you that. I don't have permission to use her name, so I'm not going to. But every Sunday morning, she's in the Catholic Church going to Mass.
Yeah. Yes.
I mean, that's what she does. I mean, she's both. So you can be. I mean, that's what she does. And it just makes me laugh because I had this horrible strep throat and I couldn't kick it. We had a plan. She does a lot of work with us too. She'll go in and bless places. And I had to meet her. And I won't do any kind of investigation if I'm not feeling 100% because that's when you're weak. Something can come in. And she met me. We were having coffee, and she goes, "You're not feeling good, are you?" I said, "No, I feel terrible." She goes, "Hold on." She goes back to her car, comes out, and she goes, "Something told me you needed this," and she had made me this tea. And I'm like, what is this? And she goes, "Just make it like regular tea, put some sugar in it, or some honey, whatever, and then just drink it, and you'll be fine tomorrow." Now, I have never believed in anything like that. I'm like, listen, I know I'm a paranormal investigator, but Western medicine is the way to go.
Yeah, I know. It's like, give me the drugs, baby.
And I said, well, you know what? I got home. I was like telling my wife, I said, what the hell? And, and it was actually very good the next day. I felt like $100. I was fine. There was no problem. I felt fantastic. But it's one of those things. I was also taking some amoxicillin. So it could have been one of those things.
Yeah.
But it doesn't hurt. My point is it's good to extrapolate things from everything. Sure. And that's just my opinion.
Sure. No, let me
So
tell you
if you can help someone by doing this, or help someone by doing it, do it.
Right.
I always help people. That's what we paranormally in my organization. We don't charge anything. We don't want any money from anyone. I've had people offer me money, and I've said no. Well, at least let me buy you dinner or something like that. Yeah, well, it depends. You want to go to Mickey D's, you can buy me up, but we're not going to Outback. It's one of those things. Because I've been put here. I'm a firm believer everything happens for a reason, and God put me here on this earth to help people.
Sure. Exactly.
Now, I'm not always the nicest guy in the world. I always haven't been the nicest guy in the world. I can be, and what I mean by that is I can be very stubborn. I can be very pig-headed, and God bless my wife. We've been married 10 years, and she'll be the first one to tell me I'm stubborn, but I listen,
right?
Because I know I'm being stubborn. So but that's just part of the way I do things, because that would I tend to hyper focus on things, and if I wasn't stubborn, I wouldn't be able to do that. Does that make sense?
That's just the way you are.
That's the way I was made. But I think I was made to do certain things, and I'm trying to do them, and I think that's what I'm supposed to do. And that's why, and then the people I associate with do the exact same thing. They're good people.
Yes.
These my friends in my organization, they're family to me.
Of course, and that's really what it's all about. It's nobody's perfect, and we all have our good traits and our bad traits, but the intention is there. As far as, like you said, your intentions towards other human beings is to help them. And
I've known that ever since I was a little kid. I knew I was supposed to help people. I mean, but I had a mother that, she was always, my mom always said, always do the right thing.
Yeah.
Always, no matter what, always do the right thing.
Yes.
Even if it sucks, do the right thing. And, I always lived by that. And, I grew up in the church, and, I shied away from the church when I was younger.
Yeah.
I was kind of going through that rebellious phase, but I was never like an atheist or anything. I just didn't want to go.
Sure.
And then, as you get older, I think you appreciate it more. I think that's why you see so many older people in church, because they appreciate it more. It doesn't have anything to do with the fact they're trying to get into heaven, but it's
right. Well, yeah, I know that everybody's like, all of a sudden, it's like you start remembering, you're like, oh man.
Yeah. Just in case. I better go. But with wisdom comes age. I'm sorry, with age comes wisdom, and that I used to think that was stupid, but it's so true. Because you start to see things, you see the whole picture. When you're young, you only see things one way. When you get a little older, you start to see things a little bit of both ways. But when you get real old, you see things everyone's way. Does that make sense? That's just a little theory I have.
And you realize sometimes that what you find in a church, it's not just strictly about the dogma. Okay.
Nope.
It's about what you get spiritually for yourself.
Well, it's the energy too. I'm a big energy guy. I believe. I want good energy around me.
Sure.
I want to put off good energy. I want people to feel good when they're around me. I want people to be happy. Mm-hmm. And that's what I want. But you can only really recharge that, in my opinion, in a house of worship. Yes. And that could be anyone. That could be anything. I'm not just talking about my religion. I'm talking about anyone's religion, any house of worship. I think that I think spiritual. You got to feed yourself spiritually and emotionally. Yes. And again, that's any religion. I'm not knocking anyone's.
Right.
And as like I said, as long as you're not hurting people, I don't care what you do.
Absolutely.
And then that's just the way it is.
This is the right way, and everybody else is wrong, and I know exactly what you mean.
I can't stand when people do that. No. What works for me doesn't mean I like diet root beer. Some people hate it. I mean,
what? And we've had. I've done investigations where, sometimes the client is almost afraid, like, hey, are you going to come in? Almost like they think that if you're not on the same page religion-wise with, the group versus them, that you're not going to help them. And it's like, no, this has nothing to do with it. I'm going to, if you come to us for help with a paranormal situation, we're going to try to help you the best way we can. This has nothing to do with your religious beliefs.
If anything, like,
yeah.
If they have a different religion than me, then what I'll do is I'll bring that specific book with me.
Yeah.
If I have it.
Or if let's say I'm not going to say they're atheists, but they're maybe agnostic, or maybe they're not.
Yeah.
And they're almost thinking, is that going to be okay with you? And it's like, yeah, I mean, that has nothing to. No, it's not like I'm going to.
Yeah, because I mean, yeah, I'm with you. Because I do the realm of, we go in when we do a paranormal investigation. If it's nasty, we've got everything with us.
Yes.
We use religious items, we use spiritual items, we use New Age stuff. I'm a huge fan of quartz. I've seen feldspar quartz clean a house. You
Yes,
know,
yes.
I carry it with me every day. I've had pendants made of it. Actually, you know what? Remind me at the end of this, and I'll send you some.
No,
I've got a
let
bunch
me
of
tell you
it.
something. Yes,
And
I have a clear quartz that I carry with me all the time. Which every once in a while I forget to put it out to cleanse it, with sun and stuff. But I carry it
well,
around.
I don't. The only time you need to cleanse it is if someone else handles it.
I know, but still, every once in a while, I like
Yeah.
to put it out, like on this, like out, because like I carry it, with me all the time. But
Yeah.
and it's like always like I carry it everywhere with me, and I've had it for like
Well, I get all my stuff
years.
blessed too. I mean,
Yes,
everything
yes,
I
yeah,
carry is blessed. It's been
yeah,
blessed with holy water. And
yes,
I carry Saint Benedict medals.
mm-hmm,
Saint Benedict
yes,
crosses.
yes,
St. Christopher cross. My crucifix that my mom gave me. I carry a
yes,
blessed rosary that actually Pope Francis
yes,
blessed. So I mean, but I also carry seven archangel symbols. And I've got one of those in my car, so nothing bad can follow me home. It's
sure,
and
yeah,
I've also got wrought iron, all over my house,
yes,
keep
yes,
for protection. So it's a little bit of everything. I
right,
think that for
exactly.
me that works.
Yes, yes. And believe
And
it or not,
the
a lot of
people
it
I've
has
been
to do
able
with
to
your
help.
belief.
Yeah,
If you believe it,
yeah.
and everybody's different. It's not like, oh, this is
Hmm.
my way is the way that works, and everything else is like,
Nope.
no, that's not the way it is. But I'm t- um I think that once we're allowed to visit, what what else is there to? Yeah, I think that as far as paranormal cases are concerned, I think we're going to see a lot more requests from paranormal
Oh,
groups.
I'm guaranteeing. I know I'm going to have
Yes,
a busy summer once all this is
yes,
over. I mean,
yes,
that's pretty much going to be done. I'm
yes.
trying to throw I've got a lot of cryptid stuff planned.
Yes, well, the
So that's
yeah, I mean, there's so much. I mean, I know that compared to people with their jobs and everything, this sounds like really so unimportant. But I mean, it's like a ripple effect outwards. I mean, how many
important
things
to
are
some
affected?
people.
It's like work, school, and then everything else that comes to a standstill. Of course, it
Yeah.
has to do with visiting or being in somebody's house, or and you know, I think that a lot of people realize, yeah, especially with the social media, everybody's thinking everything can be done online until you're forced to do everything online, and then you realize this is not as cool as I really thought. Okay, because when
No,
you have a
I didn't.
choice,
Yeah.
it's different. But
When I was
now
in
that you're being
college,
forced
yeah.
to, mm.
When I was in college, they didn't prep me for this. I'll tell you that right now.
No,
This is not
it's
what I was
again,
prepared for.
no, it's but I'm telling you, there's as long as you have a choice, it's okay. There's people that basically they shy away. They spend all their social life is more online with social media than the reality. But then something changes when don't have a choice. Okay,
Oh yeah. Oh, you're absolutely right.
all of a sudden you're like, man, this is not. What do you mean? I
It
can't
goes
go.
from democratic to benevolent dictatorship real quick.
Yeah. Like, no, I can't get together even if I only have two friends. I can't get together with them. And I can only like we can only Skype or Zoom or, Twitter or whatever, That's it. That's as good as it's going to get. And it's like, wait a minute. It's different when you have a choice versus when you're being forced to. So I'm hoping also this is become one of these people like, hey, people need to go outside and be with other people or walk around or just be in the general vicinity of other human beings. Um, I'm hoping that this is going to wake up some people and say, man, let go of the computer for a while or the video games and go spend some time outside, in the park,
You
even
know
if you
what's
don't know the
funny?
people, but
Yeah.
you're out there, sit on a blanket and
I,
people watch.
I actually put air in my bike tires. I plan on going for a bike ride tomorrow because it's Good Friday and I
Yeah,
don't have to
that's
work,
right.
so I'm planning on doing that. But I just want to spend some time out. You're absolutely right. Get some
Yeah.
fresh air.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like,
Marlene, I've probably put on 10 pounds since this thing's been
let
going
me
on because
tell
all I've
you
been doing is eating
something.
like a pig. My wife has been spoiling me rotten.
Oh, let me
Like
tell you
she's
something.
making.
The
Yesterday I
first
woke up. She goes, we're not used to being together so much, and she's like, "You hungry?" I'm like, "No, I'll just get some cereal for breakfast." She goes, "What do you want?" So I'd really like some pancakes, but I don't know if we have that. I got a phone call. It was my boss. I come into my office. I'm on the phone 10 minutes. 15 minutes later, I go out there. My wife had made me pancakes
Ah, that's so
and
sweet.
like everything. I'm like, oh my god, they were so good.
Let me tell you
But
something.
it's just so I'm not used to eating like that. And then she's making me these big lunches, and I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm loving the hell out of it.
Oh, of
I
course.
mean,
No, let me tell you
I'm loving it.
something.
I mean, my wife wants to love on me. She can love on me all she wants.
Yeah, it's like.
But I'm just getting so fat.
It's like, yeah, man, I don't want to get on the scales. I'm telling you, the first time me and my husband went shopping, that we were like, okay, you know, like, man, we need to buy a little bit of extra stuff. We started doing the, oh, woe is me, I feel so sorry. And we like try to stay away from the starchy stuff, like, you know, no bagels, no potatoes, no pasta.
Yeah.
And it was like, well, you know what? Why don't we buy some bagels? These bagels look real good, and these corn muffins. And it was like, okay. You know, like we started feeling sorry for ourselves, kind of thing. And man, it's like all of a sudden, it's like, okay, I did last time. We told them that's it. I don't care if it's the best, you know, muffin, bagel, bread, whatever. We're not buying it. Because it's yeah, believe it or not.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm totally. I understand, because the only thing I've been doing the only thing that's been like a healthy thing for me is I've been drinking probably, you know, 8 or 10 waters a day. That's probably the only thing healthy I've been doing. That's it.
Well,
and taking my vitamin C.
Yeah, since we live on a small farm out here in South Florida, we've been having a drought. As a matter of fact, we have well water. So we don't depend on the city, but they're already making people like, you know, what they, you know, like you can't water your lawn if you get water from the
I remember that, yeah.
Okay, so they're already imposing that. And I've got about 100 and some trees, and I was telling my husband, that's it. It rained a little bit last week. We cannot let it go. So tomorrow, that'll put a lot of exercise on you, which is roll out our hoses and start watering these plants, because we're like on almost 3 acres. And
that's a lot of profit.
That'll take it off of you.
You'll be sweating it too. It's gonna be hot tomorrow down there.
I'm telling you, my grass is crispy, which is great because I'm the one that mows the lawn on my riding mower. And but
my mother-in-law does that.
I'm the it's like, you know, I'm not, you know, that, you know how they always say that get off my lawn, it's the guy, get off my lawn. Well, I'm the get off my lawn lady. But not that I have such a great lawn.
My lawn.
But it's I told him, I looked at the weather report, and it's like, I don't see rain here at all. Nothing. We cannot let this go. So yeah, there's the real life intrudes on the things going on, you know, as far as you know, life goes on. In other words, you know, what's that line from Jurassic Park? Life will find a way.
Yeah. Life will find a way. It always does.
Yeah, Dr. Malcolm, whatever.
Especially there. You're kind of in Jurassic Park down there.
Yeah. Oh, sure. Yeah. And then in the middle of this, I'm getting neighbors. My chickenista, and I'm like,
hello?
What? Yes. Did I lose you? Okay, let me see. Oh, I hope. Can you hear me? Hello. Oh, darn it. I hope I didn't lose. Oh, darn it.
Hello.
Ding, twing-a-ling-a-ling.
Hello.
Hello, Chris.
Hello.
Can you hear me? Hold on a minute. No.
Marlene?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me? God, I don't
Hello?
know. Yeah, hold on. Let me see. Okay. I don't know why he cannot hear me. Let's see.
Hello?
Yes, I can hear you, but you cannot hear me. Okay. Hello, hello, hello. Oh, you know what? All right, guys. You know what? I was about to wind it down with Christian anyway, and I don't know what happened. I don't know if this is just because. But whatever the case might be. Hold on, let me give it one more try. I hope you can hear me.
There we go. Hello.
Can you hear me, Chris? Hello?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay,
I don't know. I was talking, and then all of a sudden went dead.
I know. I could hear you, but I don't know. And I'm looking at my microphone. Everything is up and working, and it just did its weird.
It's just the Fed. Don't worry about it. It's just the same thing that we're getting together like that.
Yeah, they're talking about all that weird shit.
They know we know.
Yeah, I know. But anyway, what I was telling you that like Dr. Malcolm was saying, your life goes on, life will find a way. The female dinosaurs will find a way to become male and mate, and there we go, and then life will go on, like I said, and we'll look back on this moment. And
I think everything, you're right. I think you're 100% right. I think I think it's going to take a little bit longer than we thought it would.
Yeah.
I am hoping that the summer kills this thing.
Yeah. It is.
That's what I'm hoping.
Yeah. There's a lot of things. I'm the eternal optimist in all of this. I just think that it's just that, like everything that experiencing something that's basically come so quickly and so radically changed everybody's life. I think that's what's going on, and let's face it, this is a new reality for a lot of people. No,
it is, definitely. I mean, it's like I said, it's going to be one of these things. It is a game changer. I don't think people are going to look at anything the same. I think it's going to change the way people live a lot too. I think it's going to change a lot of social interaction.
Yes, it is. And it's that, and I'm gonna, before we close down, I'm sure you've seen that movie Demolition Man that came out in the 90s. How Stallone, how there was no basically, because of the fear of contagion, people didn't even have sex together, or everything was, even to conceive a child, and everything was very and it's like, I'm gonna tell you something. Talk about life imitating art or fiction in this case. Come on, it's
not too far off, Marlon.
No, it's not.
Really,
it's not.
I don't think it is, because how many people you think people are going to be shaking hands anymore?
No,
I don't.
No, it was like, in the movie where she doesn't even want to kiss him, like, like, what do you mean exchange bodily fluid? And when you saw that movie, it was like, ha 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 ha, and it's like,
And now.
Yeah, exactly.
Now look at us.
Exactly, and then
now look at where we're going down the realm.
And then we throw in that for the easily offended crowd, that you would get fined if you said a curse word. We're not far off from that.
Yeah, that
either.
was funny. You have been fined.
Yeah, been fined. Everything was like, and the police department, of course, was totally ineffectual, because all they did was like, show up, but nothing ever bad happened. That kind of, Let me tell you something.
They tell them in a stern voice, use a sterner voice.
Yeah, I know. And a lot of people think, when that movie came out, that was a great sci-fi, kind of like, action hero thing. And it's like, man, jeez, nobody ever thought that we would be in that direction, where easily offended and
life imitates art, right?
Yeah, the move, no graffiti, something like that. Okay, thank you, Christian. It has been wonderful to speak to you again. And,
it has been a pleasure.
Yes, and let's see, we got to get together. Let's say after, let's say what this ends up being called after the CV. I don't know what they're gonna call it.
I don't know. We'll come up with something after the plague.
Of course, after the plague.
Marlene,
post-plague.
If you ever need me,
yes,
I am always here for you.
Thank you
so much. It is always a pleasure being on your show. I always have fun. I can't believe we've been talking for almost 3 hours. God, that went quick.
I know. It's been great. Fantastic. But please.
It's been awesome.
We talked about,
be
safe
much
for you and your family, okay?
The same. God bless you and yours. And please, everyone, be safe.
Yes.
Wash your hands.
Wash your hands.
60 rule.
Yeah.
So wash your hands. I tell you what, I haven't washed my hands so much. It's starting to get. I got to start using lotion now.
I know. It's like, did I wash my hands? It's like, okay, you're getting a little bit paranoid. The only ones you touch were the chickens, but it's like, I gotta go wash my hands again. Yeah.
Yeah, but that chicken could have gotten. Exactly. Someone could have coughed off the chicken.
Exactly.
I don't know where that chicken's been.
Exactly. You'd be surprised. It's like, oh man, conditioning. Okay,
that's
darling, take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Marlene. Take care. Bye-bye.
Sweetheart. Oh, I'm glad I got him back. Anyway, God, it's, don't get me wrong. You know, we've laughed and we kidded about a lot of stuff that we talked about in this thing with the coronavirus and everything. And this by no means, because we talked for quite a while before we started taping the show about our concerns about everything, the origins, the effect, health wise, not only the economy, you know, not the obvious stuff like the jobs, which is very serious, by the way. It's very serious. I mean, there's so many levels that this has affected us. Whether it's our health, the health of our loved ones, fears for them, for ourselves, our jobs, the future of our economy. I mean, there's so many levels here that are in flux right now. So even when we laugh and things, believe it, it's a way to relieve the indeterminate nature of a lot of things that we really don't know where this is going to go. Okay, because let's face it, we all love our, I don't know about you, but I love my life. I think I'm very happy and I feel very lucky and blessed to live in the United States, to be American, to live the life I have. I'm not rich or anything, but I love my life. Okay, and it's not perfect, but, and I think most people, they have their routine, whatever, and this is, you know, and most people are resistant to change, and we kind of, but I'm talking here minor changes. That's in comparison to this, where all of a sudden everybody has been thrown into this total out of, where did this come from? How did my reality switch out so quickly? And that's why I'm saying that I don't mean to make light of it, but at some point you have to counterbalance it. Because how can I say, if not, it just drags you down because your imagination plays havoc with you. In other words, you start anticipating the worst because you start thinking of the worst case scenario. And, you know, some things I'm hoping and I'm thinking most of the worst case scenarios that we could come up with are not going to come to pass. Things are going to get resolved. Yeah, there's going to be changes. Yeah, so what else? But it's not going to be horrible changes. And as a matter of fact, me and Christian were talking about that. Hopefully there's a lot of positive changes that are going to come in the aftermath of all of this. I don't mean immediately, but after everything settles, and then they as in we, they, whatever, take stock of how this was handled, what happened, how did it come about, what are we going to do now? How are we going to go from now on? A lot of the changes don't have to end up being negative. I think a lot of things, as a matter of fact, a lot of good things are going to come out of it. And it's almost like because we've been forced to change for the positive. You know how some people, like most people, have some degree of procrastinator in them, especially if it's like a change or the unknown. Well, and by this, even though this is a worldwide thing, but I'm going to talk here as an American, we've been forced to make now decisions or look at things that before we were procrastinating or we didn't even know about in some cases, which is like, what? Or that now it's like, man, we cannot afford not to deal with this. Or think, okay, from now on, how are we going to handle this type of scenario? You know, I mean, so many things, people had a moment here where they realized, man, things can change, come sometimes like this thing of a buildup, or you get an anticipated, you know. I tell them, we were talking, you know, I've lived in South Florida. I've known what it's to be in a natural disaster. But even then, you know, you have the hurricane being tracked out in the Atlantic for days and days and days, and you have days to, you know, put stuff up on your house and your windows, or if you want, you know, leave. You know, in other words, you see things coming. And of course, especially if it's, and I'm going to use the hurricane example because that's what I'm most familiar with, where sometimes what you see heading towards you is a monstrosity, okay? But you always have that point of making choices, and you kind of know what to expect because it's happened before. Maybe not directly to you, but historically there's places that'll say, you know, what they can guesstimate, you know, their certain buildings, you know, this is what's going to, and like everything else, you know, this is a localized area out of the entire country, where you know that the rest of the country and the government is going to come to help you out if it's really, really bad. But in a situation like this where everybody's in the same boat to some degree or other, as in the whole United States, it's like, oh, you get better dog paddle this around, and figure it out. And, as far as self-preservation and taking care of yourself and your family, because that's what it comes down to. I think that a lot of good things are going to come out of this. I think that a lot of, it might take a while, maybe months down the road or whatever. There's going to be some positive changes that are going to be implemented because of this. It's not all going to be negative. I think a lot of good will come out of it. It's been forced on us, but sometimes that's, I hate to say it, but sometimes it's almost what has to happen for these changes to come about. Because otherwise, if we're left to our own devices, people kind of drag their butts and say, no, I want everything just to stay the same as it is now, and I don't want to deal with that possibility because, hey, I'm busy. I got to go to work, or I got to study, or I got to, go to my kids, whatever. Life gets in the way kind of deal. So yeah, I'm an eternal optimist, and I see that despite all the negativity and the uncertainty at the end of everything, there's a lot of good that's going to come out of this. And again, be safe and take care of yourself and your loved ones, and those that maybe don't have somebody to take care of them, as far as like in our area we have that Nextdoor app, and there's been people out here that for older people or somebody that's housebound, that they'll go do a grocery trip for them, and drop off some stuff for them. Sometimes that means a lot to somebody, because this is the thing, everybody thinks, well, you know what, you can go and shop online and have an order delivered. But if you're an elderly person or you're not the computer savvy, and you might think, wow, that's so simple. Believe it or not, there's people that it's just not there for them. Especially if you're older, sitting there and putting in order. And by this, I know there's a lot of people that they're on top of it. They can go to eBay or Walmart or whatever online and Amazon, but there's a lot of people that don't. They're not there. They might not even have a computer. Okay, so that online shopping thing, my point is, that's not an option for them. So sometimes, what they say, that you depend on the kindness of strangers. Sometimes you can be that stranger. Of course, taking care of them and taking care of yourself, where, phone call or whatever, or that app. What do you need? What essentials do you need? Okay, here, I'll drop them off. And even if they can want to give you money, they can, there's ways to do it. Believe me, there's plenty of ways to do it. If let's say you can't afford to buy it for them in the sense of monetarily, all you can do is take the trip. They'll pay you, but they just don't have the means or the ways of going to pick the stuff up. So yeah, I think that we're going to see, we've seen people do stupid stuff, but I think we're seeing a lot of that. Most of us are good people, and we try to help each other out, even people that are strangers. So again, guys, thank you for being part of my audience. Take care. Till next time. See you.